I always thought of Neil as a moth man whenever I'd come across him. And few of us knew that he was hiding a secret obsession, which was born out of long, lonely nights spent on his own at a moth trap. And eventually he came out, and he's going to tell us all about it.
Thank you, Mick. Those of you who know me know that I like to record pretty much anything I can identify. But I want to talk to you today about my favourite group, which is ichneumons, or more properly, ichneumonidae, and what the status of them is in Buckinghamshire. This marvellous beast is Rhizopersuasoria, which is a massive thing. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it can be up to 8 centimetres long, half of which is the body, and the other half's the ovipositor. It drills into wood to lay in the larva of insects, usually the giant horntail, the big sawfly. Let me first put this group into some kind of context. It's obviously part of Hymenoptera, bees, wasps and ants. The bees that you're most familiar with, social bees and solitary bees, it's about 700 species. If you know about sawflies, their larvae normally eat plants and things. The primitive group of wasps is just over 500 species. But the rest, and 7,000 plus, 6,500 of those are so-called parasitica, the majority of which are ichneumonidae. And there are two major subfamilies, Ichneumonidae and Braconidae. The Ichneumonidae are so-called Darwin wasps, and they predate various larvae, Lepidoptera mostly, moths and caterpillars. So there's currently about 3,800 species on the British list, but probably nearer 4,000 because new species are being added all the time. So what about this group in Buckinghamshire? Well, we've got just under 400 species recorded. So that's pretty pathetic, really, less than 10% of the total. So there's huge opportunity here for recording new species. I volunteered as the county recorder, which was not very rash, given that, as far as I know, I'm about the only person recording these in Buckinghamshire. I'd love for other people to get involved as well, but let's move on to that. Let me just talk to you quickly about some of the terminology involved with this group. These are known as parasitoids, and basically that's a specialist term rather than a more general parasite. And that's an insect whose larvae feed and develop within or on the bodies of other insects. Sorry if this is all a bit gruesome. Some of these are actually so-called hyperparasitoids because they prey on other parasitoids. Some are called kleptoparasitoids, and they steal the prey of other parasitoids. Specifically, an endoparasitoid is one that lives within another creature without killing it until it gets to the very end of its life and it pupates, and then the host dies. Another term you might come across is coinobiont, and that's where the ichneumon lays its egg and only paralyzes temporarily the prey. So ichneumons are conobiont entoparasitoids. So that's a bit of a mouthful. Let's move on. So there are quite a few recording challenges with this group. You may have seen these big, large black and yellow ichneumons, this kind of size. And when I first came across those, I thought, well, how difficult can that be to identify? Well, quite rapidly I found out there's probably 100 species like that, and they all look very similar. And until relatively recently, it was only the females that you could identify, because males and females don't look the same in the same species, and no one had done the work to pair males to females to find out which male went with which species. Quite a lot of work has been done on that now, and it is possible to identify these two species, though it's ironically, given how distinctive they are, it's one of the most difficult groups to do. There are good keys to subfamily. Remember, there's 2,500 species. This is the subfamily key, so it's big, and there's only one recent family key, the Mancini, which will get you down to species. There are older keys which are available to download online, which, whilst very good, are somewhat out of date, so they need care when they're being used. But there are a number of online European and other Palearctic keys that can be used. So, why bother with this group? Well, it may not be very easy, but there's a lot of support out there. There are a lot of interested people, very active community, albeit small, of people looking at these at the moment. They're extremely under-recorded. As I say, we've only got recorded about 10% of the UK population in books. There must be significantly more than that. And there's a lot of scope for adding new county records. I mean, pretty much anything you can identify might be a new county record. There's even scope to add new national records as well. Species are being added to the British list all the time. So, where to start? Ichneumons like this, these orangey ones, come to moth traps. If you've done any moth trapping, you've probably seen them. What got me started was I run a moth trap, and some years ago Gavin Broad at the Natural History Museum asked people to collect them over a season and then send them to him. I sent him 20 or 30 specimens. I looked at them superficially. I could see some were slightly different sizes, so I thought there's probably 2 or 3 species there. Anyway, when I got the results back, there were 10 different species. And it kind of blew me away, and I thought, well, I've got to look at these, because I know from moth trapping that one season's moth trapping, I'm only catching a fraction of the moths that are in my garden. So I started looking at them more, and there are good keys available to the nocturnal species. Gavin has produced keys that are freely available online. There's a regular British NSOC workshop that happens every year. There's a national recording scheme, and I'm very happy to help. I've written a small booklet which is available on the website. QR code will take you to the website. You can easily find it from there. It shows you some of the more easy to identify species that you get in the moth trap. 13 species that you can do without the key. Having said that, there are a lot of very common species that aren't covered by this that you do need to take specimens for to get to an identification. But there are good keys now to all species. And just almost there. I caught a small ichneumon at our field meeting at Ithrop last year. About 5 millimetres, the wingspan. I keyed it to subfamily using the book there fairly straightforwardly, and I got to a species that I wasn't very confident about, and fortunately there was a workshop on this group run by Gavin last year, and he told me it wasn't what I thought it was because I'd gone wrong in the key somewhere, but he did tell me it was genus Phobetes, and I later keyed it out, and it went very easily to Rufipes, and I thought, oh, that's great, I haven't seen that before. And then I looked on the British list, it's not there. So I had a conversation with Gavin about it, and he confirmed my ID. There aren't any UK specimens of this species. Sorry, there's one in the Natural History Museum of unknown origin. So I'm planning to write this up in due course. Right, that's pretty much all I want to say. There's a whole load of links and references. I would say the support groups are mostly online on Facebook. There's a very active British Ichneumon Idea Facebook group with lots of national and international experts in. There's a Moth Trap Intruders group as well, which does talk about ichneumons. And if you haven't seen Malcolm Story's website, the Bioimages website, he's got fantastic images of many, many insect groups, but he's into ichneumons at the moment. Okay.
Thanks, Neil.